So, Cain and Abel. This is one of my favorites, and I feel like this is something that a lot of times gets totally missed when, frankly, atheists are impeaching the Bible with the Bible. And this isn't necessarily an impeachment of the Bible per se, but this is like, I think this has to be probably the single most badass moment in the Bible. No, really, no.
Wait, no, isn't the Jesus and it is finished or not and it is finished or what was it?
When in the book of John he says it is, I think he says it is finished and he dies because you don't get to kill Jesus. Yeah. Jesus decides when it's done.
This beats that?
I think this beats that because what we have here, because that is Jesus is God sacrificing himself to himself. To create a loophole for a rule he created. But this is actually a mortal man, a finite being, standing up to God in a way that, you can't really respect what he's done because he has murdered his brother, but you do kind of have to step back and look at Cain and be like, wow, look at the cojones on Cain, So anyways, this is Genesis chapter 4, and at the beginning of chapter 4, verse 1 through 5, pretty much... Abel, who is a shepherd, brings a sacrifice to God of sheep. And as we know from later in the Bible, later in the Old Testament, God likes the smell of burning blood and animal sacrifice. God actually specifically says that the smell is pleasing to him. So this is actually keeping in line with the character of God that we find out about later. So he likes Abel's sacrifice because that has blood. And Cain, who is a tiller of the fields, a farmer of some kind, he also makes an offering, but God doesn't like it. God doesn't respect it, doesn't want it.
Right.
And so Cain gets kind of angry, and he gets kind of upset, and he doesn't handle it well. And so he goes and he finds his brother, and he talks to his brother. And in verse 8... so Genesis chapter 4 verse 8, Cain takes Abel out to a field and he slays him. Most translations have this as he kills him with a club, which I can only imagine how that went. Brother, come with me to this field that is totally empty. And why do you have that club, brother? You'll find out in a second. I'm not trying to play, CSI East of Eden here, but I'm just wondering how that went down. But maybe Abel was very trusting. And then in this is where it really gets good for me. In chapter 4, verse 9, and the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel, thy brother? And he said, this is Cain, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? So you've got to understand, at this point in the Bible, Adam and Eve have just had 2 sons. There is a total of 4 people in the whole world. One of them has just gone missing. And God at this point, because we've just gone through the creation stuff, and God talks to Adam all the time. And snakes talk to Eve, and God has rejected offerings and approved offerings. So God apparently at this point in the Bible is really chatty. He talks to people all the time. So Cain knows that this is the creator of everything, the creator of his parents. He is Lord of all. He is all-powerful. Cain has just killed one of only 4 people on the whole planet. And when God says, where's your brother, Cain? Cain goes, I don't know. And in fact, it's not even that. He actually answers him in a really snotty way. He says, I don't know. Am I his babysitter?
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's more badass than the thing later on with Jesus, because this is like, an infinitely powerful being, and God comes to him and says, where's your brother? And he basically, that slays me. That really does.
To play a little bit of devil's advocate, I don't find him nearly as badass in this situation because
I might be playing it up in my mind a little.
Yeah,
bit, sure,
maybe, perhaps, but because right after that, God basically punishes him and says, "Well, now that your green thumb is going away,
right.
You're not going to be able to till the fields as you used to," and he basically is casting Cain out, and he also. He also says that, you shall be a fugitive and a wanderer for the rest of days.
And this actually, I'll let you
No, you're
continue
fine,
to
you're
say.
fine.
The one thing that kills me about this is that in this part of the Bible we haven't gotten the Ten Commandments yet. So really, as far as we know, Cain doesn't know that murder is not a good thing to do.
Well,
God hasn't written that one in stone yet, and so really, I think
it
this
should be obvious. This is one of those
Maybe.
arguments to make it so. See,
But-
without religion, we would just all go killing each other.
But here's the thing, and I think this is just a matter of Cain not having like good PR department, because if God had come to him and said, "Where's your brother?" All Cain really has to say is, "Well, you liked the blood of the sheep so much." And I thought, well, we're clearly your higher creations. You would love this even more.
Yeah.
And so maybe he would have gotten to work. But I'm sorry.
That's actually
go
kind of a funny point, because like you said, it hasn't been justified yet, and so maybe this is to show human nature is like, without God telling us what to do, we just kill people that bother, that slight us, like someone who cuts in line at the store and just cut him down.
Right.
But yeah, he curses him to be a wanderer and a fugitive, and then Cain's like, oh, but now that I'm this like outcast, people will kill me.
Right. The
and
people
again,
who don't exist.
I'm with you. Basically, it's only stating that 4 people exist, but obviously there's a lot more than that we don't talk about here, because he's afraid of like going out and people will like kill him.
Yeah.
Who? His mother?
Right. Well, this is also the part of the Bible where people are living to be like 600 and 800 years old, because that happens sort of up to the flood. So maybe at this point, like all Adam and Eve and their children, they've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. But that again is like, welcome to fantasy land.
Yeah,
but
well,
whatever,
it's not added. But I mean, we can assume there's more people, because in a bit it gets funny with that.
Right.
But then Cain puts a mark on him, and basically, God puts a mark on Cain to basically say, look, anyone who finds you will know you by this mark and will not kill you, because anyone who kills you will be punished 7-fold.
Right.
So this is the part that I find entertaining, because of the idea is that God's like, oh my God, you killed someone, I'm gonna cast you out.
Oh my
but
God. Yeah.
I'm also going to protect you from other people killing you, and making it so that anyone who kills you because you killed someone else will now be punished 7-fold, which I'm not sure what 7-fold is, because hell's kind of, infinitely horrible. Do they get like 7 hells? I'm not sure.
Hey, 7 infinite horrible things.
Yeah, but
Who
infinite,
knows?
7 times infinity is still infinity, so I don't know what's going on there. But then my favorite part is, so he's taken away Cain's green thumb. He's making it so he can't do anything. And then it goes on to state that, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, no idea where she comes from, and she conceived and bore Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So he's supposed to be a wanderer and a fugitive, but he also gets to be mayor of his city.
He immediately builds a city.
It's Joseph Smith. He gets to be a fugitive and a con man, but also gets to build a city and a religion. So that's the part that I love. But I mean, I just don't think he's as badass, because of the fact that he talks to the God about being scared that people will strike him down. God then protects him, which I'm not sure why you protect a murderer.
Well, I think it's because if Cain just went out and someone killed him for this thing he has done, then maybe in God's estimation he's gotten off easy. He hasn't had to live being an outcast, which he doesn't do anyways, because he immediately builds a city.
Yeah, he goes and gets married, has kids, builds a city. Like, his punishment sucks. That's bad news. I don't. There's no
Right, and it's actually funny if you think about you think about later in the Old Testament, and provided that we don't know that Cain is alive at this point later in the Bible, there's some estimations of Cain by Christian theologians that he's sort of immortal and that he has to live to the end of days, because that's how long he has to endure his punishment, is till the end of the world. But if we take that that's the case, and we fast forward to the part of the Old Testament where we start getting all these laws that are punishable by death, you literally have a situation where Cain can go out and steal and commit adultery and rape, and when the magistrates go to kill him, he can be like, "Do it. You got nothing. You can't touch me. I can do anything. I can act with impunity."
Well, plus I'm wondering, I mean, if Cain's immortal, did he survive like the flood and things of that nature? Just curious.
He would have had to. Which chalk that up. That's another in the long list of failures for God in the Bible.
Well, the last thing to note too is that I find odd is that he then his children have children and so on and so forth, and then it even states that if after he has these children down the line, it states that if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. So it's like.
Well, who's Lamech?
Lamech is like one of his brother's sons, basically, like through the family lineage.
Okay, so a descendant.
And so he's basically a descendant. So, but the idea is that so he's 11 times more protected by punishment or the threat of punishment,
right,
than his his great grandfather, or however you want to trace that back.
So I guess the idea is that the entirety of Cain's descendants are also protected, and in fact, Cain's descendants are all more so protected.
So really, these are like the most protected people on the planet. Like whoever this tribe became, these guys are badass.
And God said it was so. God, the Almighty Creator of the universe, has said that Cain and the descendants of Cain are more or less untouchable. They are the most protected people, probably more so than the Jews when you think about it, even though it's sort of coming from this nefarious place. Now, traditionally speaking, when you talk to religious people, LDS people more than most, I think, have it down pretty firmly that the people who bear the mark of Cain are black people.
I'm not sure that is accurate, actually. I used to hear that a lot, but I don't believe that the Mormon Church actually has that stand.
Well, I don't have the verse or the teaching on hand, but that'll be a good article for the webpage to go over. But let's just assume for the second that is the case. They don't look like a very protected people, do they?
Well, that's true too. If that was the case,
I'm just if that, because I know the back in the day when we had slavery in the United States, that was one of the arguments for why we should be able to take Africans as slaves, was because they're cursed, they're less than human.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. There was a myriad of reasons, but the mark of Cain was one of the arguments that was made.
Yeah, I actually think that the mark of Cain being the dark skin argument, I actually do think it is more of a Christian argument and less of an LDS argument.
Well,
because
I know that
the LDS is very specific about, in their spiritual world, the reason that people are black is that they were the people who were neutral,
right?
But in the fight between Jesus and Satan.
And I know that a lot of Brigham Young's teachings have been sort of disavowed by the church at this point. But I know that because I read this quote from him just the other day, where Brigham Young said, if like fair-skinned people, white people, should mix their seed with the dark-skinned people, and he specifically references Cain, like the mark of Cain, that they should be put to death. This is the punishment of death for race mixing. So I know at least for Brigham Young's part, the mark of Cain is being black, specifically. So, but again, a lot of his stuff has been disavowed at this point, so who can say? But I just find it interesting that if that is the case, and they are supposed to be so protected, it doesn't seem like that's really gone down very well.
But we've forgotten. Well, this is the thing. It's very unclear about what the mark of Cain is.